This video will demonstrate the procedure and the requirements for our Paul Klee project. You will need to draw a simple image of an animal. It should fill the page and not have too many details. The key is simple lines. Later you will be adding grid type lines to your drawing, and then you will paint it with watercolors. For step 1, you will need your sketchbook and a pencil. You need to draw at least 3 different design ideas in your sketchbook. This is where you can experiment with what type of animal you want to draw. Some ideas could include a turtle, an owl, kitten, a puppy, lizard, a ladybug, maybe a dolphin or a butterfly, or something else of your choosing. It can be an animal, an amphibian, an insect, a bird, a fish, anything that is living except for a human or a plant. That means no skulls and crossbones. In my sketchbook, I drew an owl, a dragon, a dragonfly, and a turtle. Once you have your 3 ideas sketched in your book, please show me your sketches so we can discuss which one would be the best idea for your project. Once your idea has been approved, I will give you a piece of paper that is specially prepared for this project. Please do not use any other paper than the piece I give you. I do have a limited supply, so be careful, as I do not have enough for everyone to start over. For step 2, you will need the piece of paper that I give to you and a pencil. Now you get to draw your creature. Please draw it as large as you can and fill the page. You want to keep your design simple. The more lines and details you add, the more work you will have to do to complete your project. Be sure to draw with very light lines. Do not press hard with your pencil. The lighter your lines are, the easier it is to erase if you make a mistake. Let's go ahead and draw. Now I am done. I have drawn my dragon. I did have it pre-sketched out a little bit to help me, but you've watched me do the process. Now you're ready for step 3. Using your pencils, you will draw lines to create a grid on your paper. Again, remember to draw your lines very lightly. You may use a ruler if you like, but the grid will give more interest to your drawing if the lines are not exactly straight. You may draw your grid at any angle, or you may draw your grid parallel to the sides of the paper. You will notice that on my 2 examples, I have the grids drawn diagonally here, and they're pretty wavy, and then vertically and horizontally here. Notice they've gone through the dragon, or they've gone through the dragon, so I have the grid. Remember, draw them very light. You're going to draw 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4 vertically, and you're going to draw 5 horizontally, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember to draw them very light. Now you're ready to paint your project. You will need a watercolor paint tray, a brush, 2 cups of water, 1 to clean your brush and 1 to put water in your paint. If there are not enough cups, please share with your neighbor. Sometimes we don't have enough. The next requirement is to paint your project using a warm color palette for part of your design and a cool color palette for the other part of your design. Look at my 2 examples again. In the first one, I have painted the background using warm colors and the dragon using cool colors. And in the second example, I have painted just the opposite, with the background in cool colors and the dragon painted in the warm colors. You need to decide if you want your creature to be painted in warm colors or cool colors, and then you will paint your background in the opposite color palette. For my project, I have decided to paint my dragon with cool colors and my background with warm colors. A note about painting with watercolor. Remember to always have a cup of water to clean your brush and a cup of clean water to wet your palette. If by accident you mix the colors in your palette, you can get a clean paper towel and wipe out the extra paint. Please, please, please leave a clean palette tray for the students who will be using the paints after you. Just as you want a clean paint tray, so do they. If your water gets too dirty, just rinse it out and fill it again with clean water. No big deal. Because of your added grid lines, you will notice that your project now has many spaces. The next requirement is to paint each shape a different color than the space sitting next to it. Remember to keep the cool colors together and the warm colors together in their part of the drawing, whether it is your creature or your background. This is why you want to keep your design simple. The more lines you add to your creature, the more spaces you have to paint differently. You can mix the paints to make extra colors. Just remember to mix them up in your paint tray lid. So if I want to make a different color blue, I can put some blue up there, clean my brush, get clean water, put a little bit of green in there, and I have a bluish green that wasn't on my palette that I can use to paint in my cool colors. Remember, for this particular project, only mix warm colors together and cool colors together. Do not mix the two. And again, be sure to clean out your paint tray lid at the end of class for the next student who will be using the paints. As you paint, there's another painting technique to note. The paint makes the paper wet, and if you paint next to a space that is still wet, your paint will bleed. Let me show you. So if I paint this space right here with my wet paint, and then I choose to get notice I clean my brush, put it in my clean water, and I choose to get purple. If I paint next to this, my purple will bleed, and I don't know if you can tell that that's bleeding in there, but the purple will bleed into the blue and my line will not be as nice and neat. But if I wait until that's totally dry and then I paint it, right now it's not totally dry, you can see it's starting to bleed, and then I paint it, then my colors will not bleed together and I will have nice crisp lines, as you see in this one, because I waited for it to dry. Remember too, Mrs. Humrick does not accept any work that has any white spots. If you bring me your project and it still has not been totally painted, you will be asked to go back and continue working on it. Save yourself the frustration by checking your work first. Check for those white spots. I do not want to see them. Let's go ahead and paint. For this step, you need to make sure your project is completely dried. For best results, it's best to make sure it has dried overnight. You will need your painted project and a Sharpie. Let's look at my examples once again. I have used a fat Sharpie to outline the first one and a thin Sharpie to outline the second. Choose the size of Sharpie that you think will best outline your creature. Feel free to ask me if you need suggestions. Be sure to only outline the creature. Do not Sharpie the grid line. Please take your time and make sure your project is your very best work. You will be presenting your work to the class in a few weeks. Good luck and have a lot of fun!